What's going on, guys, and welcome to episode 251 of Hashtag AskGSM here today for September 19th, 2018. I am Graham GSM Matthews. Hope you guys are doing well. Coming off what I thought was a very good Hell in a Cell pay-per-view on Sunday. We're talking all about it here in today's show and so much more. If you want to send in a question to the show, you can tweet me on the Twitter machine at WrestleRant with the hashtag AskGSM. Find me on Facebook as well, facebook.com/gram.gsm.matthews. Leave a comment on the post. I usually put up on Tuesday nights, if not on the wall itself. And last but certainly not least, be sure to drop your question down below in the comment section of this very video. I'll include your question in next week's edition. So without further ado, we'll get started here. First question comes from Joe M. from YouTube. The first question being, do you think the Cruiserweight title match at the Super Showdown event should main event the show since it's in Buddy Murphy's home city of Melbourne? It would be great exposure for the Cruiserweights, and since Buddy and Cedric are more than capable of having a match of the year candidate. I doubt it. I mean, obviously not. I mean, the match has barely been promoted by WWE. I know it's been kind of a big deal on 205 Live. Come on. I know in theory that's a great idea. Don't get me wrong. It's going to be a great match. Buddy Murphy's going to be insanely over in his native Australia, native Melbourne. I think he probably will win the championship. He probably should win the championship too. But you can't have the main event of the show on a show that has The Undertaker versus Triple H, where they've been building this up ad nauseum for like a month and a half now. So when Kane's going to be there, Shawn Michaels is going to be there, that's the main event on that show. I know they have AJ Styles versus Samoa Joe. They have John Cena teaming with fucking Bobby Lashley against Elias and Kevin Owens for some odd reason. We have a lot of matches on that show. They are not going to close out the event with a Cruiserweight title match. I know the crowd will be hot for the match, but that's not what they paid to see. Let's be honest. They're not paying to see Buddy Murphy versus Cedric Alexander. They're paying to see The Undertaker versus Triple H. Now, to us, I don't give a shit. I won't be there. The match really means nothing to me. But that being said, the people there, they love the notable names and being The Undertaker and Triple H, which is why they've advertised them for this show. They want to make this as big of a deal as possible. So to the viewing audience on the network, no one cares. But to those in attendance, like, holy shit, I get to see The Undertaker live. I get to see Triple H wrestle live. That's a big deal. So that's not main eventing the show. I am almost positive they will close out the event with The Undertaker versus Triple H. But I'm not saying it's a bad idea. I'm just telling you that it's almost next to impossible that they'll actually do that. His second question, with his career revival of Drew McIntyre on Raw, has Dolph Ziggler made a fan out of you again? I'm going to say no, but I'll say this. He is more bearable to me than he was before. And that largely has to do with McIntyre. Now, in the ring, Ziggler's matches are second to none. The guy's a great wrestler. I've always said that. I've never shit on his matches. It's just as a character, he does nothing for me. He still does nothing for me. Just his alliance with McIntyre has really revitalized him in many ways, both his matches as a character. The IC title stuff I thought was good. The Raw Tag Team title stuff currently I think is great. The match they had with Ambrose and Rollins at the pay-per-view I thought was awesome. So no, I can't say I'm a Dolph Ziggler fan because I'm not going to say, I'm a big Ziggler fan now, and as soon as he breaks up with McIntyre, I don't care about him anymore. But I still do not care about Dolph Ziggler. Maybe a little bit more than I did before because of the McIntyre stuff. But you mentioned it there yourself. It's because of Drew McIntyre. Absolutely 110% because of McIntyre. So as soon as they split up, I'll be back to not caring about the guy. Regardless of whether he's a face or a heel, it doesn't matter. I still don't give a shit. But Ziggler really has McIntyre to thank for his recent career resurgence on Raw. Joe's third question here. If Austin Aries, Damien Sandow, and John Morrison were all to make their return tomorrow, what brand would best suit them? And which of them would achieve Drew McIntyre or Jinder Mahal levels of success? Or would they be likely to flounder like Shelton Benjamin or Kurt Hawkins? What the hell happened to Shelton Benjamin? They broke him off from Chad Gable. He's had maybe 3 or 4 matches in that time against like Randy Orton and Jeff Hardy, but that's about it. The guy's barely on television. Why even bother bringing him back if they won't even use him? Like, what a fucking waste. Anyway, Jinder Mahal, let's face it, they did not bring him back to push him as WWE champion. That really just happened Probably because Vince saw Jinder Mahal backstage one day, like, oh, look at this guy's physique. And they pushed him on SmackDown as WWE Champion, realized it worked out miserably, took the title off him. The guy's not been pushed since. Save for an 8-day reign as United States Champion, Jinder Mahal in WWE has still been a bust. The guy's a fucking loser. He's more than he was before because of that title reign. Now he's like a mid-carder and not a lower undercard competitor. But people still do not care because the guy sucks. Anyway, if Aries, Sandow, and Morrison were to return tomorrow, what brand would they be a part of? Aries, he was on Raw before as part of the Cruiserweights. Obviously, if he was to be brought back, I would not put him with the Cruiserweights. That was a mistake from the get-go. Now, he did lend a lot of star power to that show. I thoroughly enjoyed the series of matches that he had with Neville. Let's face it, though, Aries is a lot better than that. Neville was a lot better than that as well. The guy really should have been on SmackDown from the get-go as a mid-card competitor. Aries is a SmackDown guy. John Morrison, I would also argue, is a SmackDown guy. He spent a good chunk of his career on Raw when he was Nitro and also when he was John Morrison before he left the company in 2011. But really, his greatest success not only came on ECW, but also on SmackDown. He moved over to SmackDown, I think, in 2009. He was there for only a year, but in that time, he was Intercontinental Champion. He went for the World Heavyweight Championship a few times. He was a relatively big star over on SmackDown. I thought he would get a World Championship run. He never did. Thankfully not. The guy was kind of shit on the mic. He's a lot better now than he was back then. But Morrison, if he was to be brought back, and hopefully at some point he will, I think it's even his goal, he has said on multiple occasions, to be back in WWE. But, he's doing his own thing right now with Impact, with Lucha, and on the indie scene. Hopefully at some point he can return to WWE, but if so, he'd be a lot better fit on SmackDown. Like, look at Bobby Lashley. He's in the same boat that Morrison would be in, where he came back and they had a big opportunity to push the guy because he's improved a lot since he was last there. They put him on Raw, which I thought was a good fit for him at first. They've done nothing with him. The feud with Sami Zayn sucked. The Roman Reigns thing ended. Yeah, he beat Roman at Extreme Rules, but he lost 8 days later when it mattered most. He then, got moved into a feud with fucking Jinder Mahal and Elias and Kevin. Like, who cares? Who the fuck could possibly care? So, Morrison would be a much better fit on SmackDown. I won't even say bring back Damien Sandow. I mean, I know I was a big Sandow fan back in the day, but really when he was moved over to Impact, it was exposed how uninteresting he really is. Now, I know he made the most of everything he was a part of in WWE. That time has passed. He's a lot older now. The guy never really was a great wrestler. He was just more of an entertaining act. But been there, done that. They had their chance to push him. It's like bringing back Ryback. Yeah, I thought the guy could have been something years ago, but been there, done that. Bringing it back now just to push him again would be a complete waste. So I would not bring back Damien Sandow, leave him right where he is. He was with Impact for like 6 months because his run there sucked. Because he was not interesting as a character whatsoever. So again, I would not rehire Damien Sandow. Aries and Morrison, yes, but on SmackDown. Captain Sunshine from YouTube. I've been seeing people calling Hell in a Cell an amazing pay-per-view. But honestly, I just don't see it. Even in the analogy that it's a WCW special with a messy as hell main event, but a good as hell undercard, there's only 2 or 3 matches I would really call good. And even the good is smeared by WWE's general messiness. Becky and Charlotte is still trying to pretend Charlotte's the actual babyface despite crowds treating Becky as the beloved hero, no matter how much commentary tries to treat Becky as the actual heel. Styles and Joe continues to be the curse of every Styles championship match being really good until it ends in a screwy finish that supposedly protects both people and keeps the feud going because WWE can't let feuds have a blow-off anymore. Rousey and Bliss is admittedly fine, but would have been more meaningful if the first match wasn't a squash, and this match wasn't a squash because reasons. And I would have believed people when they had said Orton and Hardy was great if it wasn't an overly long hardcore match that just happened to take place inside a red Hell in a Cell playset. I don't know, is there anything I'm just not seeing about this show? I thought it was really good. I love the show. I mean, yeah, as a standalone pay-per-view, it may not have been the best pay-per-view I've ever seen, but really when you compare it to every other pay-per-view that WWE's put on in 2018, I thought it was very good. Because Backlash was terrible. Money in the Bank I thought was enjoyable. It was by no means great, but it was a very enjoyable show. SummerSlam, it was a good show. It was not by any means great. Extreme Rules sucked. Fastlane, Elimination Chamber, entertaining, but not like great by any means. So I thought this was a really good show. The main event was really the only match that bothered me. I agree with your points to an extent, but they were all great matches. Becky and Charlotte continue to kill it against each other. I know what you were saying with the story, but at least Becky won. Styles and Joe, the finish was smart. It was a little hokey. I do agree with that. I thought they should have had a decisive finish, but they are continuing the feud, which is the important thing. And Joe should have won. He didn't, but he should have won. So there was that. They had the best match of the show, or the second best match of the show. The best match was the tag team match, which your next question is about, which was easily the best thing on the entire show. Orton and Hardy, I thoroughly enjoyed. I know what you're saying. It was not the greatest Hell in a Cell match, but I thought it was very entertaining. They at least tried to make it feel personal, not just a match taking place inside the fucking cell like Braun and Roman Reigns. That was not exciting at all. Did not need the cell whatsoever. Complete waste of time. I thought Orton and Hardy, for the feud and the story they've been telling in recent months, I thought it was exactly what it needed to be. What else was there? Rousey and Bliss, I thought was really good. Not great. Maybe Rousey's best match yet in WWE. I mean, it was a little longer than it probably should have been, but it was a different story. Like you said, why was the first match a squash and not this one? Because they targeted Rousey's ribs. That's what they did. Bliss targeted the ribs of Rousey, and that was what gave her the advantage for a short period of the match. So I understood what they were going for there. The Miz and Maurice versus Bryan and Brie thing, I barely watched. I thought it was okay. Easily the worst thing on the entire show, except for the main event. But anyway, I thought overall it was a great show. So I do disagree with you, but you're not wrong in saying that it was a bit overrated. I think just compared to every other pay-per-view we've had this year, for the most part, it was great by 2018 standards. Any other year, it might have been just decent at best. But I thought it was one of, if not the best Hell in a Cell pay-per-view I've ever seen. And that might be high praise, like how could you say that? But like if you look back at the other Hell in a Cell shows, there really weren't that many great ones. 2016, I was there, it sucked. 2017, I thought was good, but it was only really good for the two Cell matches. Everything else kind of fell off a cliff. 2015, I thought was pretty good. Had its fair share of poopy matches, but, it was all right. I thought this show was better. 2014 was really not that good at all. 2013 sucked. 2009, 2010, 2011, 2012, I thought was solid, but not great. So, I don't know. It's all subjective, but I thought this might have been one of the better Hell in a Cell pay-per-views I've ever seen. So, by those standards, I give it 2 thumbs up. Their second question. If you were wondering why I didn't mention Ambrose and Rollins versus Ziggler and McIntyre earlier, it was actually my match of the night, and I wanted to reserve talking about it here to ask if we could just make every WWE pay-per-view a one-match show with whatever Seth Rollins is in. Like, just make The Shield versus Strowman, Ziggler, and McIntyre the opening match on that Australian Super Showdown show, and then use the All Rights Reserve logo at the bottom right afterwards, and promote Undertaker and Triple H as the headliner of a 9-match post-show. That would be wonderful. Doesn't exactly work out like that, but I agree. The match that Rollins is a part of is consistently the best match on almost every pay-per-view this year. SummerSlam, I would argue that Styles and Joe is better, or Bryan and Miz over Rollins and Ziggler. Extreme Rules, that was also not the case. Money in the okay, he hasn't had the best match in every pay-per-view, but he's had one of the better matches on every pay-per-view in 2018, so I would not argue with that logic at all. Mark S. from Facebook, his first question, do you think a double turn could have happened in the Ronda Rousey versus Alexa Bliss bout at Hell in a Cell if Ronda Rousey held in the arm breaker too long? It would have been a mistake. Why would you turn Ronda Rousey heel right now? She's very popular. People love her. Alexa Bliss, maybe down the road, could experiment with being a babyface. Right now is not that time. That would also continue the feud if they turned them face and heel respectively. So no, I hate that idea a lot. I could see what you're going for there. Maybe at some point down the road they can execute that same finish with someone else. But to turn Bliss babyface and Rousey heel, at least right now, would be a massive mistake. Also from Mark, push through package release, The Ascension, Titus Worldwide, and Breezango. 3 teams I personally don't give a shit about, but if I had to choose, push Breezango. They're very good in the ring, but never really given a chance to be much more than a comedy act. But I would push them. Repackage Titus Worldwide. I would not push them just because Titus does nothing for me. I think he's more bearable in a tag team than he is on his own, but they should not be Raw Tag Team Champions. Repackage as in either turn them heel or break up Cruz from Titus, because Cruz has a lot more upside than Titus does. and then just release the Ascension. One of the easiest answers I've ever had to give, just because they fucking suck. And they were a lot better in NXT. That was years ago. Why are they still on the roster? I have no idea. Why you have the Ascension on a roster that's supposed to be the best in the world when the Young Bucks are on the indie scene? I have no clue. What are your overall thoughts on NXT UK happening? I think it's cool. WWE has way too much fucking content nowadays, so I'm not too excited about reviewing yet another show, but I think it's going to be a lot of fun. They have a lot of great talent in that division, and I have not seen any of the spoilers for the tapings, so I'm expecting it to be a lot of fun. They have a lot of great talent on that show, like I said, and yeah, it should be good. I'm sure the crowd's going to be exciting too, so I don't know when that's premiering, maybe later this year, whenever the tapings go live, but I'm a big fan of them utilizing more talent, getting guys like Pete Dunne, Bate, Seven, Tony Storm, people like that on TV more often in the form of their own show, and not just shoving them all in NXT, where it's a bit overcrowded right now. FD from Facebook, is it just me, or do you think that WWE is playing favoritism, with some superstars specifically being pushed as a babyface/hero, even though fans would unanimously reject on that hero/babyface WWE is portraying? And do you think WWE is pushing this too far, like when all the anti-Charlotte signs were confiscated during the Hell in a Cell show recently? Yeah, that is going too far, but newsflash, my man, this is nothing new. Nothing new at all. This has been going on for years. I'm sure they did some similar stuff with Hulk Hogan back in the day. Remember when Hogan was taken out of the 1992 Royal Rumble by Psycho Sid? He was taken out over the top rope by Sid on the outside. The crowd went nuts because they were sick of Hogan by that point, but the company went back on the network and other releases and dubbed it over with fucking cheers, because that's the story they were going for. So if it doesn't fit with the narrative they're trying to tell, they don't want to hear it. So they've done this before with Roman Reigns. They've done it before. They're doing it right now with Charlotte. They've done it with multiple people in the past. Like I said, this is absolutely nothing new. If they want you to cheer someone, they're not going to force you to bring in, pro-Roman Reigns signs, but they are going to confiscate any negative signs regarding that person. Not all the time, but sometimes. So, again, this is nothing new. I don't agree with it. I think it's egregious. And the anti-Charlotte shit, that's just going to make people want to boo her even more. And it's not her fault, but she's just a lot more comfortable in the heel role than she has ever been as a babyface. So, yeah, the whole, we want you to cheer who you're going to cheer who we want you to cheer with Roman Reigns and Charlotte and boo Braun, it doesn't work like that. The crowd's going to cheer and boo whoever they want to. And the company may not be able to get behind that or feel they can't do that with everyone. You're going to have to cheer. They're going to cheer some heels, but that's not necessarily them saying, we want this person to be a babyface. It doesn't exactly work like that. The waters are a little muddier than they have ever been in this company in terms of face and heel dynamic and shit like that. But yeah, I think it is a bit ridiculous. And it is going a bit too far when you take away the boo the woo signs, when Becky Lynch herself has been saying that on Twitter, on TV. So why would you disencourage that just because the heel said so? Then if you don't want people bringing in signs that say that, then don't have Becky Lynch say it. Then ban her from saying boo the woo. Then people won't bring in signs saying it. That to me is ridiculous. Jeremy B. from Facebook, thoughts on the Lio Rush and Lashley pairing, and do you think they will have Rush wrestle, Elias, KO, or Seth Rollins? The Rollins one is kind of random. I like the idea of a Rollins-Rush match, but unless you're talking about an open challenge, that sounds pretty random. But yeah, KO or Elias in the next couple of weeks, if Lashley continues to feud with them, would make sense. I love the pairing. I talked about this last week, but I'm a big fan of the pairing. I think they can really bring the best out of each other. Lashley is ice cold right now, so getting a mouthpiece and Rush, even though they're apparently a babyface pairing for now, they should be heels, but whatever. If they're babyfaces, that's fine, but it's still better than nothing. So I'm glad they're together. Rush, I love Lio Rush. The guy's a great wrestler. We've always known that, but he's really come into his own as a character and as a talker on 205 Live. I'm not sure if people ever really knew that he could talk as well as he can. I know his voice is annoying, but in the way that he's a good manager and it makes people want to pay attention to what he has to say. So I like the pairing a lot. Hopefully they can evolve into a heel act at some point, but for now, I'm a fan of them being together just at all. I think it's better than nothing. It gets Rush on Raw, and it gives Lashley something meaningful to do for a change, so I'm a big fan of it. And Rush, when he gets in the ring, I think people will become more... I think more people will become fans of Rush once they see him in the ring as well. The guy can talk, but he can also really, really wrestle too. Very well. So hopefully at some point people can see that side of him too. Jeremy's second question here. Thoughts on WWE breaking up Rusev Day? I mean, it was only inevitable. They are better together than they are apart, but they've really milked that thing for all it's worth. I'm glad they're turning Aiden heel and not Rusev, because Rusev is really the more beloved of the two right now. They really needed to run with him as a face. So I'm glad they're doing that. Aiden, I doubt he really has much of a future on his own as a heel beyond the fucking undercard. Like, whatever he was doing before he paired up with Rusev. But yeah, no, I thought it was fine. It wasn't anything, exciting. The feud's not going to be anything amazing. Let's just put that out there right now. But, yeah, we'll see where it goes. I think Rusev's going to be fine no matter what, because he still has Lana and he can be a babyface. Aiden is a good part of the act. He is better off with them than he is apart from them, but I was sick of all the teasing, of the tension. Like, they needed to do something, and they finally got it over with. But, like, an Aiden English versus Rusev match does absolutely nothing for me. So we'll see where it goes, but I'm just glad at the end of the day, Rusev is still a face, as he should be. At Reborn Again from Facebook, or Twitter rather. I don't know why I put down Facebook. Sorry, John. John's first question here. I'm all over the place today. Assuming they have not yet announced any signings, who could you see WWE signing from this year's Mae Young Classic tournament field? Good question. Maybe Madison Rayne. Ashley Rayne, she had a good showing last week. Nothing great. Her match with Mercedes Martinez was not as good as I thought it was going to be. But she's earned a spot on the roster. I think she can be a great asset to the NXT women's division, so her. Mia Yim for sure. I think Mia Yim might take the spot of Cedric Alexander this year. Now, I know she competed last year and did not get a contract, which blew my mind. But I heard that a lot like Cedric Alexander in the Cruiserweight Classic a few years ago, Mia Yim, after her match with whoever in the Mae Young Classic this year, got chance of, please sign Mia, or please sign Yim, or whatever. And then Triple H came out and said, we're on that, okay, or whatever. So, and they signed Cedric Alexander when he got those same chance, so maybe the same thing will happen for Mia Yim. She's great. She belongs in NXT. She belonged in NXT years ago, but she'd be a great addition to the roster now as well. Allison Kay, otherwise known as Sienna from Impact, she'd be good. I was never the biggest fan of hers from Impact, but she'd be a good addition to the roster. I think she's facing off with Yim tonight, so we'll see what she can bring to the table, but I could see them signing her. She's definitely bigger than a lot of the other girls. She's not like fat or anything, but like just taller. Like she has that build of like a monster heel. And we don't really have much of that in NXT right now. So she'd be a decent addition to the roster. And Mercedes Martinez was also in last year's field. Why they didn't sign her, I have no idea. Maybe just because she's a seasoned vet and they feel like we've got everything out of her, like we can't really use her for anything. I guess that's true, but she's really, really good. She made it to the semifinals last year, I believe, and she's awesome. So I would sign her as well. John's second question here. Did WWE just undercut Evolution in their women's division even more by already hyping the Crown Jewel show on last night's Raw? I get that WWE is a business, but this seems like a slap in the face to the hardworking women and even the LGBT athletes they have. Yeah, it's a slap in the face. I'm not really sure what to say about this just because I absolutely agree, but I can't say I'm surprised. I think it's insanely stupid to do a show devoted completely to the women and hype up, we're this great company that devotes an entire pay-per-view to the women. Look how great we are. And then do a fucking show days later that only has men on them because the country they're holding the show in does not allow women to compete on those shows. Like, yeah, it's ass backwards. To do that at all would be concerning. To do it in the same week is like, what a joke. Like, you cannot possibly be that dumb. Now, I know they already had the Saudi Arabia shows set and finalized and stuff. I really do not care about that shit being televised. I really don't. Greatest Royal Rumble sucked. Super Showdown might be fine, but it's just completely unnecessary. So yeah, you really cannot have an evolution when you're still holding shows and companies where women are allowed. That's fucked up, and it's stupid, and it's an ass backwards message. So yeah, it's a slap in the face to the women and just completely nonsensical. Now again, like you said, and I agree, it's a business. They're going to do what's best for business, whatever makes them the most money. Why would you do it the same week you're holding an all-women show? The timing is just too terrible. That to me just screams dumb. It just screams nonsense. It's like, how can you not think that out? I don't understand how that happens. Move it to later on next year or something. But to do it days after you have an all-women's pay-per-view talking about how great we are and how we're moving on with our women's evolution, to me, is just mind-numbingly dumb. And his third question here, will moving 205 Live to Wednesdays just before NXT help save the brand, or is it doomed to become just a niche product? I don't think it'll save the show. I mean, the show's already great as it is. People don't know how good 205 Live is. People gave up on 205 Live a long time ago. So it doesn't matter how good the show is. It's one of the best, most consistent, entertaining shows that the company currently has on the network. Or just in general, but it's on the network. I think moving it before NXT helps. I don't even know when it was taped. I mean, we'll find out tonight, but I guess it was taped. Was it taped before SmackDown last night? I wasn't on social media, so I don't know. But, like, was it taped before SmackDown? Was it taped after SmackDown? Did they tape it from Full Sail? Like, I don't know. I've been saying for months now, why not just tape it at Full Sail? Because at this point, they're not interacting with the main roster talent at all. They're not even on Raw. So why not just put them on their own show? Why not just put them in from Full Sail? Like, NXT's never on Raw. Those guys are never on Raw. So, which is why it works that they can tape in advance with the Full Sail University schedule. They can do that same thing with 205 Live. Now, again, it would not be live, but who cares? You could still call it 205 Live. It's not a big deal. So we'll see. I don't think airing it on a different night will save the show. It's really not going to make much of a difference at all if it's still being taped in front of the same audiences. Until it moves to Full Sail, it's not going to make a difference. But I do like the fact that we have 205 Live, NXT, and Mae Young Classic back to back to back. Because there are three great shows. Mae Young Classic's been a lot of fun so far. NXT is always entertaining. And 205 Live, again, like I've been saying for a long time now, since the beginning of the year, is like an all-new show with a great roster, a lot of great talent that people really should give a chance more often. At Lex the Giacomo from Twitter, my glorious, most amazing girlfriend. Her first question was, her only question really, what is the main problem with the Raw and SmackDown storylines, and what would you do to make them a bit more intriguing? P.S. I'm a big fan. Wish I could meet you in person. Obviously, that's just her being silly, so love you, baby. You're the absolute best. Thank you for being the AJ Lee to my CM Punk, which may not be the best analogy because CM Punk did quit WWE. I'm not quitting anywhere, so I'm rambling here. I just want to tell you I love you. But anyway, to answer your question, these storylines were really on Raw. SmackDown could be better too. SmackDown has a lot more intriguing storylines, in my opinion, than whatever we're seeing on Raw. I love what they're doing with Charlotte and Becky. I love what they're doing with Styles and Joe. I loved what they were doing with Hardy and Orton before they blew it off. I really enjoy Miz and Bryan, so it's really more so Raw than SmackDown. But just give us feuds that people would actually pay to see, that people would actually care to invest in. Bobby Lashley and Kevin Owens, like, why are they feuding? Like, case in point, I was watching Raw with Alexis. I've been watching Raw with her a lot over the last couple of months, but just the last 2 weeks, she would ask me, like, why are these two people feuding? Why are Finn Balor and Baron Corbin having a match against each other? And I could not give her a straight answer because there really is no reason for them to have another match. There's no purpose behind it whatsoever. So again, why are they feuding? Like, who cares? Why should I bother giving a shit about it? Even though the match could be entertaining, why should I care about Baron Corbin and Finn Balor facing each other? So, from a casual fan standpoint, you have to ask yourself, why are these two people feuding? If you can't come up with an answer, that's pretty bad. On Raw, it's like ill-defined characters too. Braun being a heel doesn't help, but we've seen Braun and Roman a million times before. So that doesn't help. Ziggler and Rollins, like, it was fun at first. We've seen it for 3 months now. They got to give us new feuds here. Ambrose is going to go heel eventually. That'll spice things up eventually at some point down the road. That'll spice things up in the IC title picture. Ziggler and McIntyre are a great tag team. McIntyre really should be holding singles gold at some point in the not-so-distant future. The Raw roster, really, they don't have a lot to work with. Like, turning Bobby Roode heel, I think, would help a lot. He's a natural heel. Him and Gable could be a lot of fun. So, really, it's just a matter of turning some people. Bobby Lashley would be a better heel. You can't turn everyone heel. I understand that. But I don't know. Just some of the things they do, it's like we've seen them before, or they're just with characters I don't care about. Like, Kevin Owens is great, but why should I care about Kevin Owens when he quits Raw and then returns the very next week? So that's the main problem. There's no week-to-week consistency with a lot of these storylines. Specifically on Raw. SmackDown, same, not really the same thing. Just with some storylines like the Iconics versus Naomi and Asuka. Who gives a shit? 50-50 booking. Have one team win this week, the other team win the next week. Like, it's not going to do anyone any favors. That's also another big problem with this company's 50-50 booking. Having one person win one week and the person getting their win back the next week. So they go 1-1. That doesn't do anyone any favors. They're still both losers at the end of the day. So that's what they should be looking at to improve the most for the storylines with Raw and SmackDown. Great question. At HardyDX fan from Twitter, his question was, why do you think WWE pulled the I Quit story from Kevin Owens so quickly? Now, we never really found out the reason. I mean, obviously in storyline we did, like, oh, Bobby Lashley cost my friend many months of his career. Now I'm going to cost him months of his career, blah, blah, blah. Like, who cares? The whole Bobby Lashley, Sami Zayn thing, like, what an awful explanation. You obviously quit for a reason, dude. Stay fired for at least a couple weeks, if not months. Anyway, like, real reason, like, no dirt sheets picked up on that fact. Like, did they change their mind? Did something come up? Did they not think it through? Was the plan the entire time for him to be back within a week? Like, I never really found that out. So, my assumption, my thought process was that, and this is, again, purely my speculation, did not read this anywhere, I'm not hearing this from any official source, that the week that Kevin Owens came back, literally the next day, they announced the return of the Mixed Match Challenge. Now, you're probably thinking, what does one have to do with the other? Kevin Owens is on the show. Kevin Owens wrestled last night with Natalya against Braun and Ember Moon. So, I think because, like, obviously you can't announce the show with him on it if he's fired in storyline. They probably already had it set out where he'd be teaming with Natalya on the show, and they didn't want to fuck that up, and they probably completely forgot about it, like, holy shit, we forgot that Kevin Owens will be on Mixed Match Challenge. We're announcing it tomorrow, have him return tonight. Again, that's only my speculation. I can't imagine that's the case just because they had to have known weeks in advance they were bringing back the Mixed Match Challenge. And even so, if Owens was supposed to be on it and he's fired in storyline, you change plans and have someone else team with Natalya instead. Just to have him be on the show. Like, it makes no sense. Absolutely no sense. To bring him back just to be put in the fucking Mixed Match Challenge. That was purely my speculation. That was only the only real reason I can think of, like, holy shit, we forgot. He's going to be a Mixed Match Challenge. We got to bring him back because we can't announce him if he's still fired in storyline. So here you are. Kevin Owens is back 1 week later. Like, again, purely my speculation. But other than that, I cannot think of a single logical reason as to why he'd be brought back so quickly. His second question, do you think Ronda Rousey will be better as a heel? That's a great question. I think Ronda's very likable, but honestly, I think she could be. Because we saw Ronda in the build-up to many UFC fights just come across like a complete bitch. Like, I'm not saying that's her natural state, because she is a very nice person. She's very likable, very charismatic. So I think being a babyface, at least for now, is the role that suits her best. But when they turn her heel, and like, her promos are never really the best. Ronda's acting skills, let's face it, are not the greatest. But if they were to turn her heel, and she has that face that makes her look like a heel whenever she gets really, really intense, she looks really pissed off. She's got that look for it. You can just have Paul Heyman talk for her. Paul Heyman can be her mouthpiece because she has always regarded herself as a Paul Heyman girl. And that was thoughts. That was fantasy booking. People were doing that, thinking about that years before she even entertained the idea about coming to WWE. So a Heyman-Rousey connection with Rousey as the heel would work beautifully. Again, not anytime soon. There's a lot of gas left in that babyface tank of hers. So I would not turn her into a heel anytime soon. But yeah, I think when she does inevitably go heel, she's going to thrive in the role. Because she talked a lot of shit in NXT, in UFC. And I'm not saying she's going to be dropping F-bombs in the build-up to her fights in WWE. But if they can have her sit down and do the sit-down interviews like they did with Brock in the build-up to some of his matches on pay-per-view, then she's going to be a real treat to watch as a heel. So I think she could be even better as a heel than she is as a babyface. So keep your eyes peeled for that down the road. At HardyDX fans, third question here, Ross's third question. His question was, how would you book Sami Zayn when he returns from injury? That's a good question. I'm not really sure. I mean, honestly, I'd bring him back as a babyface. He was entertaining as a heel, but he's a natural babyface. People will want to cheer him when he gets back, whether it be in the Rumble or before WrestleMania, whatever. I would turn him back babyface. I like the Sami and Kevin Owens partnership, their alliance. Maybe you can play out that somehow. Maybe it leads into a one-on-one match between them two at WrestleMania. I know we've been there, done that a million times, but to have them face off at WrestleMania would be pretty cool. I think they could have some great matches, and I mean, we already know they can have great matches, but I think it'd be a great undercard match for WrestleMania. They've teamed together. They've been in that ladder match together at WrestleMania 32. I think it'd be awesome if they got to face off one-on-one on the grandest stage of them all. So I would bring him back as a face, but Raw needs heels right now. Who knows if it'll be a different story by the time he comes back early next year. But yeah, bringing him back as a babyface would be my immediate thought process. And final question from Brad Berdar from Twitter. Thoughts on the rumors of the fact that Jason Jordan may not be able to return to the ring to in-ring action because of his injury. That really sucks. I mean, the guy is still young. He still has his entire career ahead of him. And also, too, the guy was really doing well before he got hurt. I think he was really starting to settle into his heel role. I mean, he wasn't a heel because he was still teaming with Rollins as one half of the Raw Tag Team Champions, but he was teasing it, like, big. He was teasing it hard. So we didn't really end up getting to see full-fledged heel Jason Jordan, but I think it would have been a lot of fun. The guy's a great wrestler. He was always really bland on his own, but once they started to allow him to show personality and be a heel like Kurt Angle was back in the day or The Rock was back in the day as Rocky Maivia, he became really entertaining. His matches were great, too. So it does suck that I almost said Rousey because I'm looking at Rousey in my document here. It would really suck if Jordan had to retire early. It's happened before with various people where they've had to have their careers cut short. Paige is the first person I think of. She was still so young before she had to retire. But at least she won a couple championships, and Jordan did too in tag team division and tag team action. But, I still think there was a lot left there with him on his own as a single star. Him and a Chad Gable feud would have been a lot of fun. I say would as if his career is over. It's just that it's being speculated that his career could be over, that he may not be coming back after all, that he may have to retire. So that would be really unfortunate. I really hope that's not the case because he could have a great career still if he is to come back. So I'm not counting him out just yet. There's nothing official, nothing confirmed that he's done, that his in-ring days are over. So don't think that he's officially retired. It's just something being talked about right now with the current nature of his neck injury. That's not something to fuck around with. So we'll see what happens on that front, but it would be a big blow to Jordan if he had to retire early because of the neck injuries he's been suffering from for a while now. And that does it, guys, for episode 251 of #AskGSM here today. Thank you guys, as always, for checking out the show. Thoroughly appreciate it. Be sure to find me on the socials. First on Twitter, tweet me your questions there at WrestleRant with the #AskGSM. Find me on Facebook as well, facebook.com/Graham.GSM.Matthews. Leave a comment on the post I usually put up on Tuesday nights, if not on the wall itself. And last but certainly not least, be sure to drop your questions down below in the comment section of this very video. I'll include your question in next week's edition. So with all that being said, folks, have a great rest of your week. We'll be back next Wednesday with episode 252 of #AskGSM. Till then, guys, be sure to like this video, drop a comment, as I mentioned earlier, share the video, and subscribe to the channel for more content. I'm Graham GSM Matthews. Enjoy, Yom Kippur today? Enjoy your Jewish holiday, and I'll catch your ass down the road.